The royal camp stood grand and unwavering, banners of Ayodhya fluttering in the warm breeze, their golden insignias catching the first light of dawn. Warriors, sages, and ministers stood in solemn silence, their gazes shifting between Rama, seated upon his throne, and the two young warriors before him, Lava and Kusha. Though defiance marked their stance, an inexplicable familiarity lingered in the air, a bond unspoken yet undeniable. Rama sat with regal composure, his fingers resting lightly on the golden armrest of his throne. Yet, behind his steady gaze, his eyes carefully studied the two boys. Beside him, Lakshman's breath grew uneven, his jaw tightening as he glanced between them and his brother. "How?" Lakshman whispered, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Can they match you, my lord?" The two young warriors stood with pride, their faces still flushed from battle. Yet beneath their confidence, something stirred, an uncertainty they did not fully understand. Then, from amidst the assembly, Sage Valmiki stepped forward. At once, the gathered warriors and ministers bowed their heads in reverence. Even Rama, the king of Kosala, inclined his head slightly, acknowledging the wisdom of the great sage. "These boys," Valmiki spoke, his voice calm yet weighty, "are not ordinary warriors, my lord. They are the bearers of your own blood, your sons." A murmur rippled through the court, disbelief and astonishment spreading like wildfire. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Rama remained still, but the control he had mastered over years of solitude and sacrifice wavered ever so slightly. His fingers clenched the armrest, his eyes flickering with an emotion he had not dared acknowledge for years. Lava turned to Kusha, his voice barely above a whisper. "He is our father?" Valmiki's gaze did not waver as he continued, his voice reverberating with profound truth. "They have sung your story, Rama, the tale of Ramayana, and yet they did not know that it was their own." The sacred courtyard of the royal camp had been prepared. A platform stood in the center, its presence commanding reverence. Sages, warriors, and nobles took their places in anticipation of what was to come. Lava and Kusha stood tall before the gathering, Venus in hand. Though their expressions were solemn, their eyes shone with purpose. Across the courtyard, Rama sat upon his throne, watching them. Yet, for the first time in years, his heart bore a weight heavier than the crown he carried. Kusha's voice was soft, but it carried the strength of ages. "We shall sing you the story of a great king, a man of Dharma, and of the love he lost." From behind the sacred curtain, Sita stepped forward. Her presence was luminous, her expression unreadable. She held herself with quiet dignity, her gaze resting upon Rama. There was no anger, no resentment, only the steady calm of one who had long known the ways of fate. As Lava and Kusha plucked the four strings of their Venas, their young voices filled the air, carrying the weight of history itself. They sang of Rama's exile, of his trials, his battles, his love for Sita, and his ultimate victory over Ravana. The words washed over the assembly like a wave of destiny. Sita listened, her heart swelling with both pride and pain. She had heard this tale before, had lived it, but now she saw it reflected through the voices of their sons. Rama sat motionless, his breath slowing as he listened. Yet something within him stirred, something he had buried deep beneath duty and honor. The story was no longer just an epic. It was his life, laid bare before him by the very children he had never known. Hanuman, kneeling in reverence, felt tears sting his eyes. He had always known the destiny of these boys, but now, hearing them sing the story of their own father, he felt the hand of fate guiding every moment. Lakshman stood rigidly, his shoulders tense as the song reached the moment of Sita's exile. His hands curled into fists, for he too bore the weight of that fateful decision. He had followed his brother's command, but at what cost? Rama's lips parted slightly, his breath shallow, his mind reeling. This was more than a song, it was a reckoning. As Lava and Kusha finished their tale, a deep silence settled over the gathering. The court stood motionless, their faces etched with the weight of the truth they had just witnessed. Rama's head bowed slightly, his expression unreadable, yet his eyes glistened with unspoken emotion. Before him, Lava and Kusha no longer appeared as warriors of defiance, but as children, his children, seeking the truth of their father. Valmiki stepped forward once more, his voice steady yet gentle. Now you see, my lord, they are yours, not just in blood but in spirit. Sita's gaze met Rama's, and in that moment, the final walls around his heart shattered. Rama's voice, so long restrained by duty, broke with emotion. My sons! Lava and Kusha, standing before him, felt the realization settle deep within them. The father they had never known stood before them at last. Rama rose from his throne, his movement slow, almost hesitant, as if afraid that this truth might slip from his grasp. The weight of the years, of choices made and fates accepted, now bore upon his shoulders. Sita watched him with quiet triumph, as though she had always known that this moment would come. And so there stood father, mother, and sons, united at last, yet still separated by the unforgiving hands of destiny. Above them, the golden sunlight broke through the clouds, bathing the moment in a glow that seemed to whisper of truths finally revealed.